Hello, everybody. Good to be back. Good to see you. Assalamu alaikum. Rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. It's good to be back. Let's see how many of you are here. First order of business, as you all know. I want you to type that you are present, right? We need to do a little roll call, so I know that you're present and accounted for. Even if you're watching on replay, make sure you comment below for the algorithm, right? It does funny things, peculiar things. So that's first order of business, and you have to hit the like button. This whole routine, this whole ritual, right? Every time we do a live stream, because YouTube likes burying channels like this somewhere deep on their servers. So in any case, I hope you're well. We also got people watching on Rockfin. Now, the first thing I wanted to start out with, is, right, see, you guys are awesome. I see you in the comments and in the, doing your thing. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay? By the way, in case you've noticed, we are blessed not to have any more audio issues. Knock on wood. Right? You can hear that. So we are blessed not to have any more audio issues. I spent the last few weeks setting up, building a new system, and just revamped everything. So that's good, right? That's very good. We've done a huge, significant upgrade, and that's thanks to you, by the way, right? So that's thanks to everybody who's supporting the channel. So if you want to continue supporting very significant tech upgrades for independent journalists, well, thank you very much, because you're doing a great job, and you can donate on PayPal and GoFundMe and what have you not. That's all in the description. So thank you for that. All right. So let's get down to business. We're going to start off with an article that I wrote. I just want to send you in the direction, send you its way, right? So there we go. So I just want to talk briefly about this article I wrote in Russia Today. So this is my second article. The first one was about Israel's latest butchering of Palestinians. And this article, as you can see the title, Britain has legalized rape, torture, and war crimes by the state. And a lot of people, actually, their reaction when seeing that headline was like, what? No, that can't be true. They think that this is not possible, or that this is an exaggeration of sorts. No, it's completely true. So in this article, I talk about three new laws. Two of them have already become laws, and one is on its way through Parliament. So the one that's on its way through Parliament is known as the anti-protest law. So this is why you may have seen a lot of people in Britain right now who are protesting all the time, and they've put together a movement called Kill the Bill, right? They want to kill the bill that is on its way through Parliament. It's the Police Crime Sentencing and Courts Bill. That's the full name of it. And, they're trying basically to give police sweeping powers to shut down a protest, even if it's one person, right? And it has these vague terms in it, like being a nuisance. What does being a nuisance mean? That's something like a parent tells a child or something. You're being a nuisance. So that's the kind of language that's in the bill. And when people tried to ask the Home Secretary, Priti Patel, what does being a nuisance mean? What does too noisy mean, right? They've used these terms like too noisy. She couldn't give an answer, right? Of course. So Boris Johnson's government, they're trying to get this through. And the other two, and by the way, this anti-protest bill, as it's been called, right? The Police Court Sentencing and Crimes Bill, the anti-protest bill, it also allows police to shut down a protest on the spot, right? So they can say, well, we don't think your protest is justified, and we can impose, we meaning the police in this case, can impose a start and a finish time, right? They can tell you, yeah, you can stay here maybe another 5 minutes, but then you have to leave. And if you don't leave, well, guess what? You know what the sentencing, you know what the punishments are now? Get ready for this. So they can fine you up to £2,500, right? Which is maybe almost $3,000 US dollars. Do you remember last year in the Black Lives Matter protests? What did the activists do? They went and they pushed this. Here I have the picture somewhere. They pushed this statue of this slave trader into the Bristol dock. You remember this? And so, that's not even a year ago, right? And if you deface a statue like that, for example, even if it's a white supremacist statue, a slave trader statue, they don't care. The punishment has been increased from 3 months to 10 years. 10 years. So you could get a longer jail sentence for, defacing the statue of a slave trader and a white supremacist than for killing an Iraqi, than for rape even. Can you imagine that? So this is what they're trying to get through Parliament. Okay? The Police Court Sentencing and Crimes Bill. Now, the other two that are already law, and what no one has seemed to have paid attention to, this is what is so staggering. This is the crux of the issue, is that people have rightfully become aware of this horrible anti-protest bill, but almost no one has spoken about these other two that have already become law, right? So what are we talking about? On the one hand, we have the CHIS bill, right? So Covert Human Intelligence Sources bill. This is also nicknamed the Spy Cops bill. Why? Because it gives the police, and not just the police, it gives any undercover agent in the government the right to behave like a spy. For example, it's not just MI5, which is Britain's intelligence service. For example, the gambling. Well, hold on, I've written them down in the article. Take a look. The Gambling Commission, the Food Standards Agency, if you can believe that, right? Here we go. So the Gambling Commission, the Food Standards Agency, the Home Office, the Ministry of Justice, they're all going to be included. Well, they're already included. Excuse me, it's already a law, right? That's the problem. they're already included in this bill, and they can be given a criminal conduct authorization. What is a criminal conduct authorization? Basically, it's an authorization for them to act like a criminal. It's kind of implied, It says it in the name. Yeah, it should scare you, because anyone with some common sense would be scared by that. Why are government employees being given a criminal conduct authorization to conduct themselves as criminals, such as, this is unbelievable. This is already law. This is a law. And we've seen in the past, which, this is why people are scared of such a thing, because, even if there was no precedent for it, you should rightfully be scared by such a thing, that the state suddenly has such sweeping powers, right? In the past, we've seen how the Met, the London police, have infiltrated left-wing groups. And the irony here is that they've infiltrated left-wing groups who were protesting against fascist groups, and they've left the fascist groups alone. This is not made up. This has been reported in The Guardian many times, right? You've had decades of operations of police infiltrating activist groups, going after people who are protesting against Israel, against the wars, any sort of leftist or leftist-oriented movements that you can think of, right? And there are women even. There are women who've brought a case forward because they were fooled into relationships. Some of them even had children out of like these fake spy cops seducing them and then trying to maintain a cover, basically. They even had children. Can you believe this? And so now what they're doing is they're going and expanding this and setting it in stone, right? It's a police state. Yes, that's what it is, right? So when they come and they tell you, oh, look, Syria is a police state, right? And they tell you Venezuela is a police state. What is this? You call this a democracy? You're giving the police the power to rape? And not even the police. It's like I said, it could be the Food Standards Agency. They have a license to rape now. They tried putting an amendment in the House of Lords to remove crimes like rape, torture, murder, and it passed. It passed in the House of Lords, right? And then the bill, it goes back to the Commons, which is the lower chamber of Parliament. They shut it down. They shut down this amendment. They're like, no. We want undercover agents to be able to rape and torture and murder. Can you believe this? And of course, what does Labour do? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, I go through all this in the article, and then the other, I love how it's like, so anyway, moving on to the next atrocity. Yeah, it's really like that. The other atrocity that they've managed to make law is the Overseas Operations Bill, right? So this one basically gives police the power, it gives, we're getting our criminals mixed up here. It gives the British troops immunity from war crimes, right? Because as you know, they would never do such a thing, but just in case, right? So that's the case they've been making in Parliament. You've had all these MPs, these members of Parliament, coming in and saying, well, we need to protect our troops. We need to look at this mentality, right? British politicians want to protect British troops from unfounded claims, right? Because as you know, Great Britain is a champion of democracy. Britain never had an empire that spanned 1/4 of the globe and put 1/4 of the world under its enslavement, right? No, that was not Britain. Of course not. Right? Great Britain never commits war crimes and atrocities. Oh no, good sir. Good sir, you must have me confused with someone else. Yes. So they want to protect our service members and our service men and service women. Yes, sir, boy. And the reason that this has come about is because you had two investigations that were set up to investigate British troops, right? One of them was Iraq Historics Allegations Team, or IHAT for short. You had Operation Northmore, which is another one. And, the first one being for Iraq and the other one for Afghanistan. And not a single soldier was prosecuted. Can you imagine that? The best part, when they did Operation Northmore, they didn't interview a single Afghan. So this is very interesting to me, how you can conduct an inquiry into war crimes in Afghanistan without interviewing a single Afghan. That's really good, right? Wow. So not a single conviction, not even a single case. No one prosecuted for anything. And this is despite the fact that you've had things in the BBC and Sunday Times. They did actually a pretty good investigation into the SAS. So the SAS, this is the Special Air Service. The Special Air Service is Britain's elite special forces, right? It's actually the first special forces in the world. So they were founded during World War II, right? Back then in World War II, they would paint their jeeps pink. They would go into the desert and they would shoot down these Stukas. They would go into a Luftwaffe bases in North Africa in the middle of the night. White is apparently a great camouflage for jeeps in the desert. So they would go in and they destroy all these German planes with 30 caliber machine guns. That's how it started, right? They're the first special forces in the world. And now what they're doing in 2010, right? 2011, they're going into houses. And of course, this is the cases we know about from the Panorama investigation from the BBC and Sunday Times. They were going into houses in the middle of the night and just executing unarmed Afghan men, right? And they were planting weapons on them. Do you remember that skit by Dave Chappelle where he's like, sprinkle some crack, right, on the dead suspect or whatever, right? So they shoot a black person and then they sprinkle crack on them to frame black people, right? So that's the same thing here. They would kill Afghan men in their houses and then plant knives and weapons on them and say, oh, look, well, we had to kill him, he had a knife. And in the emails, you can see them joking, right? This is the SAS. You can see them joking about how there were more bodies than weapons. It didn't even, one of them is saying, I studied maths, but this doesn't add up. They're joking about it. You have this damning evidence that has come out, and no one is prosecuted for it. Nothing. And same with the Australians, right? They had the Brereton report. You have these Australians in the SAS. They're still serving in the SAS after executing Afghans on video. I mean, this is absolutely astonishing. I mean, it's not surprising, but it's still disgusting. It's revolting. It makes your stomach turn, right? And so they basically decided, yeah, we're going to give British troops immunity now, right? So it's not enough that these investigations led to nothing, that you had damning evidence that they did nothing with, right? It's like a police department in the US investigating itself. Of course, they found no wrongdoing, right? So the British government investigated itself and found no evidence of war crimes. And of course, you had one lawyer who kind of, I talked about this with Al-Mazi, by the way, right? So Mohammed Al-Mazi, we talked about this in an interview. It's on the channel. Go and watch it, right? So we talked about the Kill the Bill protests and so forth, right? And we talked about how this case of, sorry, just going back over here. We talked about the case of Phil Shiner, that's his name. So he's kind of like a disgraced, discredited lawyer because he made false allegations, apparently. And they've used him as a scapegoat to say that, well, look, British troops are under attack. They're bringing false allegations. So clearly, we have to protect our troops because these investigations lead nowhere because we made sure they led nowhere. And there's this one disgraced lawyer. And, clearly people are just out to get British troops and making these false claims. So we're going to pass a law that gives them immunity. So if the crime is older than 5 years, we're not going to investigate it. It's not happening. It's blanket immunity. And by the way, it's not just war crimes, right? It's genocide. It's torture, crimes against humanity. So they really, they really made sure of it, right? So these are two things that have already become law. This Overseas Operations Bill and the Spy Cops Bill, or formally it's known as the Covert Human Intelligence Sources. And this is what is a bit alarming to me, is that even among the protests, and I'm not saying this is on purpose, by no means. On the contrary, I'm in full support of them, that they're protesting against this anti-protest law. But even then, a lot of people are not aware of these two atrocities, these two new laws that I just mentioned to you. And so what I said in the article is that it would be good for the protests to expand to include that, because when Israel was massacring Palestinians again in Gaza in May, they did. You had protests intertwining between Kill the Bill and pro-Palestine marches. So that was great. That was beautiful. And so I would hope that they would expand. But people really need to understand what is happening. So I really implore you to go watch this interview I did with Almazi. It's on the channel. It's really a good watch. I really implore you to go read his article in Jacobin magazine, by the way. He wrote a good one on, I think he wrote one specifically on the Spy Cops bill, right? And I implore you to go read this one that I wrote in RT, which is about all three bills. So it's absolutely astonishing. I mean, it really is. The United Kingdom, they dare to call other people human rights abusers, and they go and invade Iraq, and they crap all over the global south and call everyone else uncivilized. Look at this. This is literally the definition of a police state. When you give undercover agents permission to rape and kill and murder with impunity, how is that not a police state? Can someone explain that to me? No, that's the definition of a police state in a dystopian novel, right? If you went and read, not even in a dystopian novel, it's reality. So just in a dystopia, that's the definition of it. So I want you to remember that the next time the UK opens their mouths, right? Because we already know their hypocrisy from before, we know. But this is just another brick in the wall, right? So there you go. I just wanted to talk a bit about that. Just casually mention that the UK is a police state. No, I mean, it's just a continuation, right? But yeah, I hope people become more aware of this. I've been raising my voice in protest for months now. Before these became law, I was already talking about this, right? About the overseas, about the spy cops. They weren't law yet, but unfortunately, they made it through because Labour is not in opposition. They're crap. There's no opposition. They're like Democrats in the U.S. They just let Republicans do whatever they want, right? They got rid of Corbyn. They got Keir Starmer. They do whatever they want now. So there you go. That's just the first. That's just the first one I wanted to talk to you guys about. We got over 200 people watching. MashaAllah. Thank you very much. Make sure you hit the like button because we need people to help us with the algorithm, right? So thank you very much for that. And we got people watching on Rockfin who've already sent a couple of tips. People have sent a couple of tips on YouTube. I appreciate that very much. Let me just read some of your questions and your comments. And if you want me, you have any particular question, go ahead and please send a super chat or something through PayPal. We can also do it through PayPal, and I'll read it for you. We got one over here from Rob Junot. This is good to see you, Rob. Rob says, for the peace effort, or another nice coffee for Claudia. Pretty much the same thing. Not creeping, just grateful. It's most appreciated, and this will definitely go to Claudia. So thank you very much, and I really appreciate it, Rob. Thank you for supporting independent journalism. We're very grateful. We got some also over here on Rockfin. This is a tip from Robin. There's no comment attached, but thank you very much, Robin. I appreciate it. We also have one from Ion. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Thank you very much. And here's one from Shadowband Refugee. Shadowband Refugee says, I swear to fucking Peaches Holmes, if these fucking Zion-Nazis steal any more of my money to give to the Israeli terrorist force SS, stop paying my fucking taxes immediately. I already stopped paying taxes because I threw a fit over the CARES Act. These motherfuckers kill people for profit with my money. Yes, so for those of you who don't know, in the... was it the CARES Act? It was the HEROES Act. I think it's the second one where they gave the Friends of the IDF, that was just supposedly a non-profit, they gave them $2.5 million, right? Because as you know, during a coronavirus pandemic, the people who need money the most are not the Americans from their own government. No, it's the Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces, right? And then in the last stimulus or highway robbery, as we should call them, that Trump passed in December of 2020, there was another $500 million for Israeli missiles. We'll get to those in a second, right? But yeah, so there you go. We also got people who signed up for the Substack. Thank you very much. So as you know, I'm also writing articles there. So it's not just on RT. Definitely sign up on the Substack. It's free. RichardMedhurst.substack.com. And if you have not made an account yet on Rockfin, please do, because it's free and it's a good alternative to YouTube. So there you go. All right. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anybody else. We got a tip here from Jordan Allen. Thank you so much, Jordan. He says critical hits. You know they're coming. We're coming swinging, man. So thank you also for Michael's Liberation Pizza Party. He says, keep up the good work. Thank you. I appreciate that very much, and I will do, and I thank you for your support. Thank you so much. So let's you guys can keep sending in comments, and I'll try and read them in between segments, right? So not to make you guys wait till the end, right? I don't want to tease you too much. So hold on. Let's get to the next one over here. Okay. So, God, all of these are atrocious. All of these are atrocious. We have a lot of crap here. So just give me a second, if you will. Okay. So this one should come as no surprise to any of you. This next segment. Okay. So, let me just read you. We'll start out with the title of this article from Reuters. Okay? Let's take a look. U.S. Senator expects United States to send more funds for Israel's Iron Dome. Who is that senator? Well, none other than Lindsey Graham. So this this dude over here, right? Oh, he's been busy. He's been busy. So he said on Tuesday he expected Washington would quickly authorize as much as $1 billion for Israel to replenish its Iron Dome missile defense system after clashes in May with Hamas. Yes, because of course, as you know, when you have one of the most advanced militaries in the world, an occupation force that is subsidized, as you can clearly see, by the United States, right? With an air force, a navy, tanks, drones, you know, a very capable intelligence service, and they go and they bomb a civilian population, you know, when they go and bomb Gaza, this tiny strip of land, this enclave, which is home to 2 million Palestinians and is the third most densely populated place on the planet, which is under siege, by the way, by Israel and Egypt. That's a clash, right? It's not a massacre. It's not a butchering. No, it's a clash, right? Because clearly an army, you know, bombing a country with no army, that's a clash. It's not a massacre. It's a clash, right? We got to use the colonizer language, right? We have to use the colonizer language. And of course, the mainstream media has to frame what's happening in Palestine, the occupation of Palestine, the ethnic cleansing of Palestine. They have to frame it as a clash. Because if you talk about an occupation, people would ask, well, who's occupying what? Oh, the Israelis are occupying Palestine? Oh, so it's not a country. These are colonial settlers from Europe and elsewhere. They've come here to take people's homes. Oh, the jig's up. So they can't have that. They have to call it clashes, right? 230 plus dead on the Palestinian side, 12 Israelis dead. Yes, it's a clash, right? In 2014, 65% of Palestinians killed were civilians. Just now, what happened in May? Half of them were women and children. That's a clash, right? When you butcher women and children, it's a clash. So, this is what Senator Lindsey Graham told reporters in Jerusalem. Actually, instead of reading the quote to you, I'm just going to play the clip, right? So he went to occupied Palestine. He went to the holy city of Jerusalem, and this is what he said.
Saving thousands of Israeli lives and tens of thousands of Palestinian lives. So I would imagine that the administrations will say yes.
So he's talking about the Iron Dome system, right? For those of you who are not aware, the Israeli occupation, they have several air defense systems, right? So they have the Iron Dome is one of them. Arrow is another one. They also have David Sling, I think is its name. So, you know, each one is for a different type of missiles. Iron Dome is for shorter range missiles, you know, and Arrow for longer range ones. So the ones that Hamas have, they are supplied by Iran. Those have gotten more numerous, and they go longer range now. Okay, so I think they were able to go 250 kilometers just now in May. the latest that they have, right? So he's saying, as you heard, Lindsey Graham is saying that Iron Dome protects Palestinian civilians, right? Which it's like saying the Atlantic Wall in occupied France protected French civilians, right, from the British or the Americans, right? Yeah, so you see, this is like Nazis in World War II saying, yes, the Atlantic Wall, it's good. With these fortifications, they protect French civilians as well, right? Because they care so much about French civilians that they're occupying. Look at this twisted logic, right? It's unbelievable. So he wants to portray the occupation as a good thing for Palestinians, for their own good. Shut up and be occupied. God, it's unbelievable.
Yes to this request, and it will sail through Congress. There's been a big dust-up over the last engagement between Hamas and the State of Israel in the United States. But I'm here to tell you that there is a wide and deep support for Israel among the Democratic Party.
Oh, we know. Oh, we know, Habibi. You heard him, huh? He said there's a wide and deep support for Israel among the Democratic Party. Yes, we know. This is bipartisan murder. This is bipartisan criminality, yes? Bipartisan imperialism, of course, we know, right? And remember, he's a Republican, so, Lindsey Graham, he has no problem, coming in and, singing Israel's praises, confirming to you. He speaks even for the Republicans, for the Democrats, right? So no surprises there. Let me just play the rest of the clip for you very quickly, all right?
And I want to thank President Biden for standing with Israel during this last conflict. I appreciate the administration's willingness to seek from Congress more money for the Iron Dome system. The other message that I received, regardless of party affiliation, was the concern about Iran. After having gone to the South today and seen firsthand some of the damage done from the recent conflict, I was talked to very strongly about the North. That we've been talking about the South in the last week or so, but there's a real fear among the defense establishment in Israel that the potential for Hezbollah to strike Israel is a lot greater than coming from Hamas. The common theme here is Iran. The world is putting Israel in a box. It seems that Iran is able to be the largest state sponsor of terrorism, and nothing deters them.
God, it's like listening to Mike Pompeo. And I don't say that as hyperbole. That's literally a phrase that Pompeo would constantly say. Iran is the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, blah, 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 right? Iraq is weapons of mass destruction, blah, 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 blah. It's the same cow manure, right? So it's incredible, right? How he portrays Israel as the victim. They're putting Israel in a box. Yeah, like that entity in the Middle East that is in possession of chemical weapons and nuclear weapons, right? That has funding from the United States. Poor Israel. Oh no. What will they do with their nukes? What will they ever do, right? Oh no, Hamas and their tiny little rockets, they're more powerful than Israel's nukes. Oh no. The world has put Israel in a box. Oh no. It's not like these are people who've come and colonized Palestine, right? Oh no. God, he's insufferable. Once again, with Israel, this is where you see bipartisan support. I mean, wholeheartedly, right? And if we look further in this article, so Graham is a senior Republican on the Senate Appropriations Committee. Graham met with both Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Defense Minister Benny Gantz during a trip to occupied Palestine. The committee oversees spending, including foreign military aid. I love how he calls it a dust-up as well. That's kind of funny, right? So in any case, Biden has said he would replenish Iron Dome, which helped Israel fend off most of the more than 4,300 rockets fired from Gaza during the conflict, right? So they fired 4,300 rockets, right? They fired more rockets, at a faster rate and longer range. And only 12 Israelis died. 230 Palestinians died. And they of course, they used American jets, American bombs, everything, right? And the Iron Dome itself, as you can see, is also subsidized by the US. Where's the aid for Palestinians, right? I don't mean a few bucks that they throw at them, right? But where is it? Oh, it's not there. You know why? Because Palestinians don't have an air force. Palestinians don't have an Iron Dome system. Palestinians don't have conventional armed forces. But apparently, Israel is the victim. This is very interesting. This is hilarious. And then you can see Graham, he's going on Twitter. Listen to what he's saying, right? Take a look.
This is the place to come, but my main message has been more for Israel. The more people try to destroy Israel, the more Hamas tries to destroy Israel, the more Iran tries to destroy Israel, the more aid that the United States will provide to Israel to defend herself from my...
Again, here we go with this manure. Apparently, Israel is the one defending itself, right? Not Palestinians who are living under occupation. And then here we have some more tweets from Lindsey Graham. It says, to those on the American left who believe that the conflict between Hamas and Israel has been spurred on by right-wing politics in Israel, you do not understand the nature of the conflict. He goes on to say that Hamas in Gaza and Hezbollah in Lebanon are radical Islamic groups that wish to destroy the Jewish state, not because of Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, but because of their religion. Oh yeah, sure. If you don't understand this, you're making the biggest mistake since Neville Chamberlain's Munich Agreement with Hitler. I urge the middle and left of Israeli politics to set the American left straight as to the true nature of this conflict while we still have time. Well, he's right about one thing. If you believe this, you definitely understand nothing about what's happening in Palestine. Okay? So once again, these are not clashes. It's not a conflict. It's an occupation. Palestinians have been under illegal occupation. Well, before by the British and the Ottomans before that. And here we have, of course, again, when I talk about that illegal occupation, you have to look at this through the lens of the entire Middle East, right? Because you had 400 years of Ottoman rule in the Middle East, right? And I speak here more about Syria. And then, of course, the British and the French came and carved it up, Sykes-Picot. And then what did they do, the West? They came and stuck Israel in the middle. So 73 years now, you've had an Israeli occupation of Palestine and around 50 years of the Golan Heights in Syria since 1967, right? They've been occupying Syria as well. People forget this. They think Palestine is the only country under Israeli occupation. It's not. Lebanon was also under Israeli occupation. Guess who kicked them out? Just take a wild guess who in Lebanon kicked out the Israelis. Just take a wild guess, right? After they were occupying South Lebanon for, 15 years? My parents worked at that UN mission. Guess who kicked them out? It wasn't the UN. It was Hezbollah. Hezbollah kicked the Israelis out. So you understand now why they have all this propaganda about Hezbollah. Because Hezbollah wiped the floor with Israel. So here he's trying to make this about religion. This is preposterous. This is absolutely preposterous. Islam, just like, Islam is a monotheistic religion. It's an Abrahamic religion, just like Christianity, just like Judaism. All these religions come from the same place. How do all these religions come from the same place, yet these white people in the West want to come and convince us that we have a problem with each other? We do not have a problem with each other. You go and you talk to a Palestinian Jew, a Palestinian Muslim, or a Palestinian Christian, they all have the same position. What is that position? Get out. Stop occupying our land. Stop oppressing us. That's what a Palestinian would tell you. Go talk to a Syrian Jew, a Syrian Christian, a Syrian Muslim. What are they going to tell you? Israel needs to stop killing the Palestinians and get out of the Golan Heights. Everyone has the same position on this. This is not a religious issue. This is an imperialist issue, a colonial issue. And this piece of shit, he's trying to come here and frame this as a sectarian one. It's not a sectarian one. Not at all. Not even by a long shot. What a piece of shit. This is complete garbage. Complete bullshit. But of course, he's a good doggy, right? So you can see Lindsey Graham. What does he do? He has Netanyahu, give him a good pat on the head, like a good little poodle. Take a look. Right, so this is during his visit in the last week.
And no one has done more for Israel than you, Senator Lindsey Graham. He is a stalwart champion of our alliance, and we have no better friend. So I want to thank you for everything you've been doing over the years on our defenses, our security, on Iran. Mm-hmm. You've been a tremendous friend, tremendous ally.
Thank you.
Welcome.
The eyes and ears of America is Israel. You talk about the Five Eyes, they're important allies, but nobody does more to protect America from radical Islam than our friends in Israel. And I just want you to know, this sign says all you need to know about my trip. To every American, what happens with Iran matters to not only to America, but to the world. The worst possible outcome for the world is to allow the Iranian regime to acquire nuclear capability, because our Arab friends will not tolerate that. They feel far more threatened by Iran than they do Israel. So my hope is to find an alternative to the JCPOA that will allow for nuclear power but not create a nuclear arms race through enrichment. And that's the existential threat to the state of Israel and the world writ large. So what can you expect, my friends in Israel, in the next coming days and weeks from Washington? More.
Thank you.
Oh, he's such a pathetic dog. Look at that plaque.
Yeah.
You see the plaque that he gave him? What is that cheap, ugly little thing? What a monstrosity. I mean, you would think that if he's such a good friend of Israel, they would give him something more respectable than a piece of cardboard. That looks like someone, like a third grader made that in Microsoft Word. What is that? That is so ugly. Okay, look, man, I've had it with, I've had it with these criminals. He's not the only one, by the way, right? So here you can see also Ted Cruz, right? Look at them, such good pals, right? It's in Netanyahu. He's giving his doggies a little pat on the head.
Glad to see two great friends of Israel.
Well, we're here to show our unwavering support for Israel.
Well, we have no better friends, and I mean that. Tested over time.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister, it's good to be back. It's good to be with my good friend, the Prime Minister. And it's important that we're here now to state unequivocally that the United States stands with Israel.
Indeed.
And these are perilous times, but Israel's strength, Israel not only has a right, but a responsibility to defend yourself. And there are some in the press that draw a moral equivalency between Hamas terrorists and Israel defending innocent citizens. They're not equivalent. And thank you for standing up and keeping people safe. Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel. And
Did you say Netanyahu? He was like, well, thank you. It's like, you schmuck. That was so good, man. I gotta play it again. That was brilliant.
And thank you for standing up and keeping people safe. Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel. And yesterday we went.
Oh God, look at the smirk, man. Look at the smirk. Honestly, he's funny. Right? Netanyahu is really funny. The way he's just treating them like bitches because they are bitches. This is so hilarious, man. I swear. Oh man. And you know what? I totally agree with Ted Cruz. There is no moral equivalence whatsoever. You know why? Because half the casualties on the Palestinian side are women and children. Yeah? There are 12 casualties on the Israeli side. 12. In 2014, there were over 2,000 Palestinian casualties. 65% civilians. On the Israeli side, there were 67. Most of them soldiers. So you want to come here and tell me that one side, the one that is committing a bloodbath, is defending itself, and the one that is resisting, oh no, they're not defending themselves, right? Because of course, in their mind, Palestinians don't have the right to defend themselves because they don't view Palestinians as human beings. That's the truth. This is how white colonial, this is how colonizers talk, how imperialists speak, right? They attribute humanity to themselves, to their fellow oppressors, and the people they're oppressing are not human beings. So of course they can't defend themselves because to them, Palestinians are not human. This is the scum that we are talking about. This is the scum that we are dealing with, right? And I mean, I don't need to tell you, look at this. I mean, you already know how much military aid the Israelis get, right? This is preposterous. I mean, this is from the Senate themselves. From the Senate themselves, man. Hold on, I pulled up my report over here. Give me a second. So there's a report by the Senate. Here it is. All right. Israel is the largest cumulative recipient of U.S. foreign aid assistance since World War II. Can you believe that? You should, because it's not that surprising, is it? The largest cumulative recipient of U.S. foreign aid assistance since World War II. Okay, now here we have a graph, all right? I'm trying to zoom in so you can see the whole thing because a bit of the frame is cut off, right? So here we have a graph of how much foreign aid these countries receive from the U.S., okay, in military aid. Look at Israel down here. Look at that. The entire graph is blue. They get direct aid from the U.S. more than any other country, okay? This is going all the way back for decades, right? I mean, it's preposterous. It's absolutely preposterous. And they're going to give them the rest. You know that this one, since Barack Obama's administration, he signed this package deal for 10 years because that's usually how long these deals last, right? This military aid is worth $38 billion over 10 years. So every year since 2016, Israel gets $3.8 billion US dollars in military aid from the United States. But of course, it's not enough, right? So during the coronavirus pandemic, right, they give this so-called nonprofit Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces, they get $2.5 million out of the HEROES Act, right? Then come December, when Trump passed his final stimulus, right, that $600 check, included in that was another $500 million for Israel's defense systems, for their missiles specifically, for their missile defense system, right? But now they want to come and convince you, oh, look, man, the poor Israelis, they got no more missile defenses because they wasted them all butchering Palestinians. They wasted all the money. And now, so in addition to the $3.8 billion a year, in addition to the $500 million in December, now they want another $1 billion. They're using their massacre of Palestinians as an excuse to give them more aid. That's what's happening right now. The Israelis are going and using their butchering, their bloodbath of Palestinians in May 2021 as an excuse to get more money in addition to what they already receive. Preposterous. And then these scumbags like Lindsey Graham and Ted Cruz, they want to come here and tell us the Palestinians are not human beings. Really? This scumbag, Lindsey Graham, you know what he was doing in 2019? U.S. Senator Lindsey Graham on Monday vowed to push for American recognition of Israel's control over the Golan Heights. So this is back in 2019. This is reported by the Times of Israel. So again, the Golan Heights, these belong to Syria. It's one of the territories that the Israelis captured in 1967 in the Six-Day War. They captured the Golan Heights from Syria, the Sinai Peninsula from Egypt. They captured the West Bank from Jordan. They captured East Jerusalem. And, I mean, they've been illegally occupying all of them ever since. They gave back the Sinai Peninsula. And, when it comes to the Golan Heights, in Syria, when it comes to East Jerusalem, they annexed them. Like, they passed laws in Israel, right, in this occupation, officially annexing them. Like, they just don't give a crap. And this, just to give you an idea again how illegal this is, even the United States at the time was like, you can't do that. You had multiple UN resolutions passed by the UN Security Council, unanimous. They were passed unanimously. The P5 plus 10, all of them. They said, you can't do this. You have to withdraw. You can't pass this law annexing East Jerusalem and saying that Jerusalem is your capital. It's null and void. Even the United States agreed with that. Can you imagine? It's unanimous. That's how illegal it is. Like, you have to think how something is so illegal that even the U.S. comes in like, what are you doing? But of course, Trump, he's a great friend of Israel, so he goes a step further. And of course, Blinken, when he's asked about this, which we covered, he doesn't care. The Biden administration, as I told you, their hallmark has been keeping everything that Trump has done and running with it. Like, why would they roll that back? No, keep the embassy in Jerusalem. We'll continue to recognize the Syrian Golan Heights as Israeli and occupied Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Why are we going to roll that back? Trump did it. We're not going to catch flack for it, as if they caught any flack. They're so disgusting, honestly. They're so disgusting, right? Britain helped create this monstrosity, and then, of course, the United States just runs with it, right? That's why this is, again, one of many reasons why you can view the United States as an extension of the British Empire. It is in many ways. Not in all ways, but it is in many ways. And, you have Zionists in both parties and bipartisan support for Israel when it comes to Tories and Labour in the UK, when it comes to Democrats and Republicans in the US. And, of course, all these countries are pussy whipped. Thank you, as Netanyahu says. God, that was hilarious. So, yeah, I just wanted to show you the latest nonsense. And, dude, you heard it from straight from the horse's mouth. This is a Republican senator coming and saying on behalf of a Democrat president, oh, don't worry, this is going to sail through Congress, right? He said that. It's going to sail through Congress, this $1 billion package for your defense systems. They're all good doggies. Yeah, they're all good doggies when it comes to supporting Israel. Well done. Good poodles. So we're going to continue to the next topic. By the way, thank you guys for your donations. I'm gonna read some of them. Véro says bis à papy. Merci beaucoup, Véro. Ça fait vraiment plaisir de te voir. Tu vois, je stream. C'est pas trop tard, hein. Il y a le foot tout à l'heure, mais ça va. C'est pas trop tard. Je suis content de te voir. We got a message over here from Cam 35mm. Thank you very much. Thank you for the sticker. Florin has also sent a sticker. Thank you very much, Florin. And he sent another one a thumbs up. I appreciate that very, very much. Thank you. Revolutionary Drew has also sent a super chat and says, America is a demon spawn of the United Kingdom. I see you're quoting me. Yes, I see you're quoting me. I love that phrase. America is indeed a demon spawn of the United Kingdom, and now Israel is a demon spawn of American imperialism and colonialism. Yep, that's quite well put. That's quite well put. I mean, you know, the UK had their hand, of course, a major hand in creating it, but in maintaining it, yes, those honors go go all the way to the Americans. By the way, just one more thing I wanted to point out. It's so funny how you can see all of these countries, these Western countries, like, you know, showing fealty and paying their dues and respects towards Israel after what happened in Gaza. So, I mean, Israel carries out a bloodbath in Gaza, right? Half the casualties are women and children. And what happens? You have Dominic Raab, who's the foreign secretary of the UK. He goes and visits Netanyahu and Gantz, right? And now same thing with Lindsey Graham, right? He goes and visits Netanyahu and Benny Gantz. And Secretary of State Blinken, he does the same thing. So you have all these secretaries of state or foreign secretaries and all these, you know, these leaders coming and visiting Israel. Like, oh, poor you. Oh, no. What are we ever going to do about your bloated military that's just trampling all over Palestinians? Quick, throw some more money at it. Right? It's like the sympathy tour. They all have to come and pay homage. They have to pay homage to the Israelis. I mean, it's so pathetic, really. It's really pathetic. It really shows you who's you know, dominating the other. It's quite hilarious. I think the Israelis find it hilarious too. Right? That the UK and the US are such bitches. Hey, it is kind of funny in a way. So, okay. You guys are very, very generous with your donations. Thank you so much. We got one also here from Shadowband Refugee. Thank you again. This is on Rockfin. It says, here's a juxtaposition. I live in New Mexico, for context. Say a Spaniard from Spain comes to my house and seizes it from me with money from the UK and tells me I have the right to live. Well, it cut off, but I think you mean to live here. Yeah, it's preposterous, right? It's preposterous. I mean, this is like, you know, this is like if I say, well, you know, I have some ancestors from France from like 1,000 years ago, before they came over with William the Conqueror. Like, do you mind? Do you mind if I take your house in Brittany, in northern France? Yeah, I had someone from my family who lived here 1,000 years ago. The French government would tell me to fuck off, right? They would tell me, go fuck yourself, va te faire foutre. But apparently, you can do that if you're, you know, a European Jew. You can go and tell Palestinians to get the fuck out of their houses, apparently. And then the UK and the US will subsidize you. That's interesting. So, thank you to Connie for the super chat. Connie says, American diplomacy is another extension of its imperialist war policy. Absolutely, right? Absolutely. Even foreign aid, I mean, in the case of Egypt, for example, you know, when we talk about the World Bank, the IMF, and these institutions, unfortunately, you know, a lot of their aid, it's usually to hold countries hostage, unfortunately. And, you know, they're when we talk about American diplomacy, I mean, what is that even? Right? it's hard to talk about imperialists being diplomatic. It's a farce. It's a farce, and the same goes for the UK and for France. You know, it's a farce. So let's move on to the next topic. And thank you so much for all your comments. By the way, if you want to support the show, you may do so, and that helps with our tech upgrades. You can support on Patreon. If anyone joins on Patreon or donates on GoFundMe, I will play Crab Dance. And I'm sure many of you have been asking to play Crab Dance, so I'm very grateful for that. Also, over here, we also have the QR codes that you can donate to, CashApp, Venmo, and PayPal. So thank you very much. You guys are splendid. You're the absolute best. Thank you very much for supporting the show. We also had a donation here from Ross on PayPal. Ross says, have a pint. You're on Supercharge. Thank you, Ross. I really appreciate that very much. I'm very grateful. You guys are the best. So I'm going to drop all the links below, and thank you guys so much for supporting the show. So let's continue to the next segments. We have quite a bit to do. Oh, boy. I don't think you guys are ready. I'm not ready. I'm not ready, man. There's a lot of crap to cover. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay, so just give me a second to pull this up. All right. So, after the Syrian presidential elections, we had coverage, well, if you can call it coverage, about these elections in Syria, right? And, you know, when it comes to covering the elections in Syria, there's bad coverage, which is most coverage, and then you have TYT bad coverage, okay? So I'm going to play you a few excerpts from their clip when they're talking about the elections that just took place in Syria. And wow. I mean, get ready. Really, get ready. It's bad. It's that bad. Okay, so we're going to start from the top.
Syria just held its presidential election, and unsurprisingly, Bashar al-Assad won his 4th term, which means he'll be serving another 7 years as the president of the country in what I'm sure was a totally free and fair election. I'm sure that there was no funny business going on, nothing undemocratic taking place.
Okay, first of all, look, why don't you drop the sarcasm and actually tell us what the funny business is? You know, we keep hearing in the media that the election had funny business. Okay, well, what is it? Like, you know, you call yourself a journalist or a reporter. What is it? Okay, is she going to tell us anything? No, she's not. But let's continue, right? Let's continue because this is not the worst of it.
As an individual who identifies on the left, you can both be against United States intervention or the United States meddling in these types of situations and also acknowledge when undemocratic behavior takes place. And that certainly is the case in the country of Syria.
Okay, so hold on a second. Remember, she's saying that they're against imperialism, right? They're against intervention. Really? And they're pro-democracy, really? Can you explain to me how you care about democracy in Syria and you don't tell us that most Syrians support Bashar al-Assad? The will of the majority reigns supreme in what you're saying, right? How do you not mention this key basic fact that most Syrians support Bashar al-Assad if you care about democracy, right? So they're saying that there was funny business during the elections. I can't give any examples or proof because they have none. Then she's saying that, oh, well, you know, look, man, we're totally against intervention, but we're going to repeat the same crap that people who are pro-intervention say. And then, you know, we're going to say that, you know, this is all about democracy, even though we're going to completely omit the fact that most Syrians support Bashar al-Assad. But no, we totally care about democracy, right? We need to give the Syrians democracy. Wow, this is incredible. This is incredible. What else do they have for us?
First, let's start off with the fact that not everyone was allowed to vote in this presidential election. So Deutsche Welle reports that not everyone within the country is allowed to vote. The country is home to the world's largest number of displaced people, with millions of domestic refugees in the northwestern province of Idlib and in areas in the east that are outside of the government's control, run by Turkish troops.
Yeah, not everyone was allowed to vote. You know why? Tell us, Anna. Tell us why not everyone was allowed to vote. Are you going to tell us about Syrian citizens not being able to vote in Germany, in Canada, in France because they were blocked from going to the consulate? Are you going to tell us about that? No? Why not, Anna? She's not going to tell you that, right? No. She's going to say that the Syrian government is blocking people from voting. That the Syrian government, Bashar al-Assad, is excluding people from voting in the election. And in the same sentence, look at the same sentence, what she says. People outside government-controlled areas. Why would they not be able to vote in the election? Do you think it's maybe got something to do with the fact that those areas are controlled by the opposition? Of course, Al-Qaeda is not going to let you vote for Bashar al-Assad or anyone in the election in Idlib. You know why? Because it's being run by Al-Qaeda. Of course, any opposition-held areas are not going to let people vote in the election because they are the opposition and they are boycotting the elections. No. She's trying to make you think that the Syrian government is blocking people from voting. And she doesn't tell you about how there are so many Syrians who want to vote for him abroad and who can't because they've been blocked by Western countries. So again, they care so much about democracy, right? They care so much that they're blocking Syrians from exercising their right to participate in their own elections. Wow, this is amazing.
Or their proxy militia, run by Turkish troops or their proxy militia, and they're the ones who have the say.
She just told you, look, she just read the sentence, right? Turkish troops or their proxy militias have the say. Yes, exactly. She's telling you in that same sentence why people cannot vote outside government control areas, and she still tries to blame the Syrian government. I mean, this is just pure ignorance. It's astonishing. Get ready. She's not done, huh? You see the next sentence?
Now, the Kurdish majority in northern Syria is also excluded from being able to vote in the...
Okay, wait. Okay, hold on. First of all, what is this Kurdish majority? Where is this Kurdish majority? There is no Kurdish majority in northern Syria. What are you talking about? She just made that up. Well, Deutsche Welle made it up. There is no Kurdish majority anywhere in Syria. You know when you go and you watch these like shitty, cheap Vice documentaries where they try to glorify what the Kurds are doing with their separatist stuff in northeastern Syria, right? They don't even call it Al-Hasakeh, which is the proper name of the area. They don't call it Hasakeh, they call it Rojava or Rajova, whichever it is. Even in that area, Kurds are not a majority. Any person can go on Wikipedia and Google this. Okay, go on. Look, here's Hasakeh. This is the first province. Okay? You can read that. Look at the current demographics. Read that for me, please. How many Arab villages are there? 1,161. Kurdish villages, 453. Can you tell me what kind of fucked up math they are doing over at TYT? How is 453 out of 1717? How is 453 out of 1,717 a majority? Can you explain that to me? This is a majority? What are you talking about? Okay, that's Al-Hasakeh. You want to look at Deir ez-Zor? I'll pull that up too, man. Okay, ethnic Arabs make up 90% of the population of Deir ez-Zor governorate. All right, the vast majority of them are Sunnis. And here's the source in Arabic. These two, look, I'm going to show you on the map, right? Northern Syria. These two areas, which have these are the areas in Syria where you will find the most Kurds, okay? And even in those areas, they're not a majority. So this is Hasakeh, okay? And here is Deir ez-Zor. Okay, so let me highlight them for you on the map. Okay, you have Hasakeh province and then Deir ez-Zor. This is Hasakeh, all of here, and then you have Deir ez-Zor. I wish you would highlight the whole province for us so we can see that. There you go. Hasaki province, and then this is Deir ez-Zor. So in both of these areas, the majority of the population is Arab. So where is she getting this made up nonsense that there is a Kurdish majority? There is no Kurdish majority. What is she talking about, man? Most Kurds in Syria have Syrian nationality. They can vote in the elections. The ones who don't have it refused to take it when they were offered it decades ago. Okay? This is just completely made up. Kurdish majority. What a bunch of nonsense.
In this election.
It's not even news. The news is that he didn't win by 99%, because that's what happens when you kill, maim, displace, and otherwise completely control the opposition.
What? Completely control the opposition? How does Bashar al-Assad completely control the opposition if half the country is under opposition rule, you stupid fucking clown? Half the country is not under his control. How does he control the opposition? What planet do you live on, you fucking clown, you dunce? Look at this clown. She's unbelievable.
I think there were a couple of candidates who ran against him that he himself may have selected, like many autocrats tend to do.
Did you hear what she said? I think there may have been other candidates who ran against him. Yes, there were. And he may have selected them. Oh, so you're talking out of your ass. You don't even know. She can't even get her story straight. She thinks, oh, he may have done. This is reporting, right? I think. Yeah, may he have done that? You know, I don't know. Yeah, oh yeah, he did. He totally did. Thanks for watching TYT. What is this horse manure? What is this horse manure?
To run against him, the joke being maybe those candidates even voted for him themselves.
She has no clue how Syrian politics work. Okay? She has no clue. She is talking straight out of her ass. Okay? Bashar al-Assad, the government does not choose the candidates. Okay? The candidates are approved. They're approved by the People's Assembly. Okay? Let me pull this up. Okay? They're approved by the People's Assembly, and then you have the Supreme, the Constitutional Court that makes the final approval. Listen, man, there's criteria for this. You can't just put your favorite person in the election. You need 35 seats in Parliament. There's an entire process. She has no clue. I don't think she can even place Syria on a map. She has no clue what she's talking about. And can you think this is where people get their foreign policy from? Can you imagine what an atrocity that is? There are people who actually come and watch this channel and think that what they're saying is true. Unfortunately, though, you can go and watch any mainstream media channel and they will say the same thing, which is why TYT is gutter journalism. It's garbage. It's no different from Deutsche Welle. It's no different from, Sky News, Channel 4, BBC. It's so different. It's garbage. They all sound the exact same. But, we got to give TYT credit for being especially bad.
It is not me or like my government's role to at all intervene to create democracy, but sure as hell, there are many Syrians who've lost their lives trying to continue what was the Arab Spring that popped off more than 10 years ago to actually break the Assad stranglehold on the country. And look what has happened since.
What is she talking about? Do you hear that fake sympathy voice he's trying to do? Look, it's not my place to do that, but maybe there are a lot of Syrians. Shut the fuck up, you imperialist swine. Get the fuck out of my face. خراي عليكم ما بتسووا السرمايتي. ولادين الكلب ولادين الحرام. These motherfuckers, they sound like the CIA. They sound like the DOD. They sound like the goddamn people at Whitehall. They're no different. Oh, it's not my place to bring democracy and, to interfere, but I'm totally going to say the same motherfucking shit that people who've been trying to interfere in Syria have been saying for the last 10 years. The same shit. What Arab Spring? The entire Arab Spring in Syria has been a coup d'etat. They've been trying to get rid of Bashar al-Assad because they've been trying to get rid of Bashar al-Assad, okay? Most Syrians support him, whether you like that or not. You don't care about democracy. If you did care about the will of the majority, you would say this. You would state this fact. I mean, you don't even have to care about the will of the Syrian people and the majority of the Syrian people to state this fact. If you call yourself a journalist, you should say the fucking truth. Not because you support that, but because it's the fucking truth. And they can't even do that because these people are scum. They're imperialist scum. Right? And they try to pretend to be like woke imperialists, right? They're woke imperialists. Look, man, you know, we totally against intervention, but you know, maybe that intervention is good, right? Because like democracy and stuff, right? Fucking gutter journalism, man.
The government claimed over 18 million eligible voters took part, but because ballots were only offered in areas.
Hold on, you know something? I want to say something, man. You know, by the way, they both blocked me, Anna and Francesca, right? They have pre-blocked me because they know what's coming. If they think that this Syrian Arab Spring is so nice, you know what? I want Francesca, I want her to go live in Idlib. Go live in Idlib, Francesca. I want you to go live there, right? This opposition, this revolution that you are glorifying. Go and live there, right? You know what they would do to her? She would not even be allowed outside the house in Idlib under Al-Qaeda. She would have to wear a niqab. She would never see daylight. You think she would have a job there? You think they'd let her report? This woman would have no future there in this opposition and this revolution that she's glorifying. They're so good sitting there and talking about it. They have no clue about Syria. They have no clue about the Middle East. Fuck you imperialist motherfuckers. You Al-Qaeda supporting pieces of shit.
Under government control, only just over 10,000 were actually able to vote, while
Anna apparently forgot how to read. That says 10 million. That says 10 million, okay? So apparently they just don't like the results. They just read it, right? She can't even read it, actually. She says 10,000 people were able to vote instead of 10 million. And then she says, well, you know, clearly it's a sham election because you know, Deutsche Welle said that and CNN said that. So clearly it's a sham election, right? That's their only criteria for substantiating these facts. That's it. Right? Because obviously, in their minds, they don't understand that most people support Bashar al-Assad in Syria. It doesn't enter because that doesn't suit the regime change. That doesn't suit their bullshit.
According to the official results, Assad won over 13 million votes.
Yes. You know why? Because you had a huge turnout. You had a huge turnout, which even some of your so-called democracies do not have, right? 78%? 78%? Can you show me the last time the US had 78% turnout? This is in a war. This is during a war. And they did that. What does that tell you? What does that tell you? And I love how they say, according to the official results. Can you please tell me which authority is supposed to issue the results about the Syrian presidential elections? Al-Qaeda? McDonald's? Of course, it's according to the official results. Who the fuck else would give you the results? Who else? Putain, c'est pas possible. Again, they want to tell you this is a fake election. They want to tell you it's a sham, and they can't even prove it. They have not a shred of evidence to prove that it's fake. And they never tell you. They never tell you that most Syrians support him. They can't tell you that. It just doesn't work because all of this goes down the toilet. It means garbage because it is garbage.
You saw Bashar al-Assad voting in Duma, which is a suburb of Damascus, which was the site of a chemical attack that has been...
Oh yeah, you know, because Francesca, she knows Damascus really well, right? In Duma, which is like a suburb of Damascus. Oh yeah, right? She totally knows Damascus really well, right? She was there. Oh yeah, she saw the gas canister fall from the plane. She saw the chemical attack, everything, right?
Contested by himself, by a lot of state actors and proxies, including Russia, saying, no, over 100 civilians did not die in that attack. They staged the attack on themselves.
Okay. Listen here, you Pinocchio nose-lying motherfucker. The OPCW fact-finding mission are not working for Russia or Assad's proxies or Bashar al-Assad. You fucking dishonest gutter journalist, okay? The Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons, Ian Henderson, the fact-finding mission, the fucking scientists who went there to Duma, who know what they're talking about because they're scientists and they don't talk out of their asshole like you. They said that no gas attack happened. What are you now, a fucking ballistics expert? You do forensics? WikiLeaks has never, ever published something false. They have 100% solid reporting, okay? The Duma documents from the OPCW, we saw all of them. We covered them on this channel. There was no gas attack according to the same scientists, the very scientists who went there. You had trace amounts of chlorine, no symptoms that are typical of a gas attack in the victims. The gas canister was placed there manually. All of this proof from the OPCW themselves, these leaked emails, all of the documents are online. Any person can go and read them. This is why they put people like Julian Assange in jail, right? This is why they put whistleblowers in jail, because they leak the proof that they do not want people to see. And now she's calling these scientists and whistleblowers, she's calling them Russian proxies and I don't know what other word salad she just made up. They make these smears up. They just make up bullshit. They did the same thing to Aramate, by the way, on TYT. They called him also a bunch of names because he's reported on this as well, right? We had him on the channel too. So, I mean, they just make up smears. These people are so criminal. There used to be a time where you had to have undeniable proof before you went and said something like that about another person, right? No, now they just openly call scientists liars. This is science denial, Democrat version. That's what it is, right? This is the Democrat version. Although it's the imperialist version because all of them do it, Republican, Democrat, doesn't matter, right? It's unbelievable. So they're saying that, because Bashar al-Assad, he cast his vote at the site of the Duma gas attack, which never fucking happened because there's no proof that it happened. And it was just a pretext used by the US and the UK and France to bomb Syria because, of course, they would tell the truth, right? Just like they did in 2002 and 2003 in Iraq, when they said Saddam has weapons of mass destruction. They were totally telling the truth, right? So of course, when they say it about Syria, it also has to be true, right? Yo, have you been under a rock or something? It's not just that we know you should never trust the West when they make allegations about WMDs. It's that we have evidence. I just showed it to you, right? We've just covered this. There are so many emails here. Internal emails. We have the toxicology reports. We have everything. We have the proof that there was a cover-up. They omitted the findings of the scientists, right? And once again, I want to ask you a question now. Can you please explain to me what this has to do with the Syrian elections? You started your reporting, so-called reporting, by saying that these elections were illegitimate. Have you provided a shred of evidence to substantiate that claim? Just a little bit. No, nothing at all. They've just been making stupid, sarcastic voices and just coming here and calling OPC scientists, trying to mention the Duma gas attack story, which has nothing to do with the elections, and smear the scientists of the OPCW at the same time and call them Russian proxies or whatever. God damn it. God damn it. You can't win, man. You can't win with these people. They're not interested in reporting or the truth. They're just scum. They do the bidding of the establishment, the British establishment, the French establishment, the American establishment, just the West, right? And their regime change bullshit. These countries, these same countries, and Israel, of course, who have been occupying Syria, who have been trying to dismantle and destroy Syria for decades and decades, right? This is colonialist bullshit. I'm not saying we support intervention, but we support intervention. And we're going to say the same things about intervention that the West does. I mean, this is astonishing to me. You can tell that these people, number one, they are completely ignorant. And number two, they do support intervention because they do not even have one legitimate critique about Assad, right? Well, you could go and find me a list of critiques about any politician in the world, right? This gas attack is made up. It did not happen. So you're repeating Western propaganda, and on top of that, you have nothing else to say. It's astonishing. It's astonishing, really. And some people say that, oh, look, man, they took this Clinton money and so-and-so, that therefore they're corrupted. Yeah, that's bad enough. But I want to make a point here. It's not just that TYT takes Clinton donor money, whatever, who the hell gave them that crap. You need to understand something. These people are ignorant as fuck. They don't even know where Syria is on a map. They have no clue what they were talking about. They are ignorant. Yes, they're dumbasses. They don't know what they're talking about. So sometimes it's that simple. So on top of being corrupt, they can also be dumb. Well, they're primarily dumb, I would say. Yeah, you go to TYT, they don't know how to talk about anything outside of Republican Democrat. That's it. And even then, it's atrocious. Even then, right? Their only thing where they actually kind of have some idea what they're talking about. They don't. They completely don't. And then they go and they cover the Syrian election. Motherfucker, Syrians themselves don't even know what the hell is happening in Syria because there's a war going on. And now you want to come here and tell us what's happening in the country? There is no way in hell Bashar al-Assad is still president after 10 years of Israel, the United States, Turkey, France, Qatar, Saudi Arabia trying to get rid of his ass. And he doesn't have support from the Syrian people. You cannot stay in power without the support of your own people for 10 fucking years. That's not happening. That's not happening. You're a lunatic. This is astonishing diarrhea. I mean, really, you know, again, there's bad coverage and then there's TYT bad coverage. They just take it to another level. Well done. Congratulations. Congratulations. Well done on your diarrhea report. Good job. Good job. So, I mean, this is really astonishing that we still have this in 2021. We still have people repeating claims about chemical weapons, about weapons of mass destruction. They've learned fucking nothing, right? Donald Rumsfeld, and it must be fucking, you know, creaming his pants right now. God, they're so atrocious. God, they're so atrocious. They're criminal. They're literally criminal. So, you guys have been very kind. Thank you so much. Brian has sent a super chat. Brian says, Richard, keep debunking the sloppy propaganda from the young turds, the young turds and other media. Scary how there's no accountability in the mainstream media. Absolutely. Absolutely. There is no accountability. They just say whatever they like and they don't even have to prove it. It's just bullshit, right? Verbal diarrhea. And thank you for supporting the show. I'm very grateful. We also have a couple of tips here from, one is from Marianne. Just give me a second because it's loading. I just want to read your comment if there is one. Give me one moment. And for those of you who want to, you can also send in comments or questions that I'm more than happy to answer over PayPal. So go ahead and do that while this is loading. And hold on, I'm getting to your comment, Marianne. 1 second. Okay, so this one is from Marianne, and there's no comment, but thank you very much for the donation. It's a very generous one. I'm very appreciative. We got another one, very generous one here from Kenneth. Kenneth says, truth is its own reward. That's Plato. Thanks, Richie. Thank you very much. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Kenneth. Excuse me. I really appreciate that. And, you know, I wholeheartedly agree with your sentiment and with that is its own reward. And the people who, you know, do the bidding of the CIA, of the war machine. I mean, it's astonishing, right? They're all against Trump, right? But they have no problem repeating the same crap from Trump's administration about Syria. Then it's fine, right? Then it's fine. Then all of a sudden there's bipartisanship. Sam says, Sam K, thank you for the super chat. Says, it made it worse because Cenk had actually interviewed Seymour Hersh about this chemical claim back in 2013, 2014. Now they're pathetic. Yes, you know, I mean, I wasn't watching TYT, so I don't know, but, you know, I've heard from people that they used to be good at some point. I don't know how true that is, but, you know, apparently they did at least one good interview, and, well, as you said, look where we are now. So that's a shame. That's a very big shame that they are like this. Really. Holly, thank you for your super chat. Holly says, given back for what you give. Thank you. You're very kind, and I appreciate that very much. Thank you. If you guys would just excuse me, I'm just trying to make sure I didn't miss anyone's super chats anywhere else on Rockfin or PayPal or YouTube or anything. So I'm just going through the motions. By the way, we're not done. We're not done. We got one more. We got a little more to do. 2 more segments. So don't go anywhere. Right, over here. We have a super chat from, well, it's not loading, but it'll load soon. Okay, so let's get to the next segment, guys. Let's get to the next one, all right? Oh, God, it just, that really made me angry, this TYT bollocks, this TYT diarrhea. God, that's horrendous. Really. I mean, you really have to outdo yourself to do better, to do a worse job than CNN. You really got to try, maybe, right? You really got to try to outdo CNN in their crappy coverage. That's quite a feat. So David says, thank you, Richard. I needed to hear this. Thank you, David. I hope that some of this is cathartic for you because I'm boiling and I'm fuming inside. I'm really fuming inside because these people are such scum. And I'm talking about the entire mainstream media, right? They don't actually have critiques about the Assad government, like legitimate critiques. No, they don't even know any of them because they don't know anything about Syria. They only have Western propaganda, regime change propaganda. They talk about democracy while trying to impose colonial shit, colonizer shit on Syrians. Syrians, the majority of them want Bashar al-Assad. Anything else is the fucking West. That's colonization, that's imperialism. So don't come here and try to dress up your fucking colonial nonsense as democracy. It's not democracy. If you cared about democracy, you would leave Syrians the hell alone, right? And you wouldn't come here and start repeating allegations about WMDs like it's 2002. Right. Okay. So let's get to the next segment. In Lebanon has been going through a horrible economic crisis for quite some time. So you remember towards the end of 2019, we covered it on this channel. These protests that started in Lebanon, in the capital Beirut, in Martyr Square, Saht al-Shuhada. So, basically, people are sick of the corruption. You have to understand the situation in Lebanon. It's a beautiful country, but politically, it is a mess. They had a horrible, long 30-year civil war. After that, in the last decades, you've had... I can't encapsulate it. I mean, we've covered this so much, but the corruption is unbelievable, right? So don't be mistaken. Those protests are legitimate. There is real corruption. And then, of course, you had the Beirut blast. I mean, by the way, just 1 second. I just want to show you some images of the protests, right, from back then. Because I want to give you some history, some recent history before I get into the news that just took place, right? So you remember in Saht al-Shuhada, we had these protests going on, right? There we go. So this is back from October 2019. And, people were protesting against a bunch of stuff. The corruption in the government. They tried to do some WhatsApp tax. It was ridiculous. It was ridiculous. And then you had the Beirut blast, which, happened last year in summer 2020. And that was absolutely tragic. And then, the government fell apart. You had people resigning. They promised to form a new government. You had Macron visiting, and there's still nothing. There's still nothing. And ever since, the economic crisis has been getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And just to give you an idea, I think this is very, very eloquently put together. It's from Al Jazeera, surprisingly, right? So let me just show you here. They've done a comparison between the cost of basic items and common goods going from 2019 to 2021, right? So this is by Mohammed Hussein for Al Jazeera. You can see it just by this picture alone, how dire the situation is. So in 2019, you could buy a couple of groceries. With the same money in 2021, you can barely afford, a carton of milk or a bottle of milk. So Lebanon is suffering from its worst economic crisis in 30 years. Across the country, tens of thousands of people have lost their jobs. A million more struggle to buy basic necessities, right? All amid the continuing coronavirus pandemic. The crisis has caused the value of the Lebanese pound, or lira, to plummet to record lows. Okay, so Lebanon imports about 80% of the goods it consumes. So a weak lira, by the way, in Syria we also call the Syrian pound lira, but we're talking about Lebanon. So a weak Lebanese lira has had a serious effect on people's purchasing power. Food items today cost about 5 times more than they did in 2019. Now I want you to keep something in mind. This article is from just a month and a half ago, right? So just from 12th of April. And now just more recently, okay, this article, you can see the headline. This is from 3 days ago in Arab News. Look at the headline. Dollar exchange rate reaches 14,000 Lebanese pounds on the black market. So this is a record low. The more as time goes by, it just gets worse and worse. That's my point, right? But everything is still valid in the points being made here, nonetheless. So just going back to our article over here. again, we're talking about the protests, right? And in October 2019, at the time, 10,000 lira were officially worth $6.63, and you could buy you basic necessities such as milk, rice, and vegetables. Today, you would be lucky to buy a liter, 1 quart of milk for 10,000 lira, which is worth less than $1 on the black market. That's catastrophic, honestly, right? I mean, even back then, it's so bad, and look what it's gotten to. So you can see here in 2019, with 10,000 Lebanese pounds or 10,000 lira, you can buy milk, you can buy some vegetables, right? Chicken. 2020, a year later, with the same amount of money, no more chicken. You just got milk, some oranges, and tomatoes. And then 2021, no more tomatoes or tomatoes. Nothing, just milk, right? It's getting worse and worse and worse. And it's not just food, of course. It's clothing and medicines, right? So everything has gone up as well. On average, food items today cost about 5 times as much compared to 2019, right? The price of a liter of milk has increased 3 times, from 3,000 lira in March 2019 to 10,000 lira. Okay, cooking oil has risen, the price has risen by 16 times. Basic clothing, such as a basic no-name t-shirt, increased 9-fold, right? Other basics, such as bread, increased for the first time in 10 years, despite flour being subsidized by the government. So you can see, I just want to put into context, I just want to explain to you how dire the situation is. And just as a side note, well, it's not really a side note, it's quite important, but I haven't seen it mentioned in any of these articles. The Syrian economy and Lebanese economy are very, very, very interlinked, right? So Syria itself is under sanctions, right? And even before the sanctions, the Caesar Act that came into effect a year ago, right, in June, under the Trump administration, June 2020. Even before that, always, a lot of Syrian goods, products, services, you know, they flowed through Beirut. The economies, the countries are, you know, they're completely interlinked, geographically, economically, culturally, right? Lebanese have the closest dialect to us. So it's almost identical. So because of sanctions, because of the war, a lot of Syrian businesses, they would do their business through Beirut. And then you had the crisis itself in Lebanon happening. You had the blast at the port. There's a shortage of foreign currencies, right? There are no dollars. You know, people can't even access their money. It's the inflation. It's terrible. So the bad situation in Syria increased the bad situation in Lebanon, and vice versa. That's my point, right? So it's important to understand that. Now, just going back, okay? Just going back to what's happening now. Here's an article, okay? This is from, it's about a speech that Nasrallah gave on, just last week, right? So here's also from Arab News. Nasrallah defies Lebanese state, says he will import Iranian oil. So I'm going to play you the speech, the excerpt. It's just a minute. It's not even a minute, right? And I'll explain to you what he says, right? So this is Sayyid Nasrallah. He is the leader of Hezbollah, right? Which is both a political party and also has a military wing in Lebanon, right? So let's just play the clip and I'll translate.
والمازوت
طبعا لازم تبقى الدولة بس يمكن يجي وقت خلص الدولة ايش تحمل المسؤولية.
Right? He says, of course, the state, meaning the government, must take care of it, but you know there might come a time where they can't handle it anymore.
كنا نوصل على محل إنه ما في حل وهذا الذل بده يستمر. أنا من هلا بقول.
We're going to get to a point, you know, where there's no solution and this suffering, well, you know, has to come to an end. So
نحن حزب الله حنروح على إيران.
We, Hezbollah, we will go to Iran.
نتفاوض مع الحكومة الإيرانية وهن قبلانين ونشتري بواخر نفط.
Right, and we'll negotiate with the Iranian government, and they're willing, and we will buy boats of fuel, right?
بواخر نفط بواخر بنزين لأنه نفط إذا جبنا ما في هون يبدلوه. بواخر بنزين وبواخر مازوت ونجيبها على مينا بيروت وخلي الدولة اللبنانية تمنع إدخال البنزين والمازوت إلى الشعب اللبناني.
Right? He said, we're going to go to Iran, we're going to negotiate, we're going to buy boatloads full of fuel, and we're going to bring that to the port in Beirut, right? We're going to bring that, we're going to bring it directly, and just dare the Lebanese government stop us. So he's challenging them because they haven't done anything. As you can see, it's of course, it's not just fuel shortages. As you can see in the video just before the images, right? I mean, it's not just the fuel shortages that are the problem. As we were just talking about, you have inflation. I mean, mass inflation, the price of basic necessities skyrocketing. And on top of that, the currency itself, the lira itself, has plummeted, right? It's at the highest it's ever been on the black market. I mean, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. Even though the Lebanese pound is pegged to the dollar, nonetheless. So it's not just that. You have a fuel crisis as well. And Nasrallah is basically, he's challenging them. He's like, you better take care of it or we will. And, you've had various responses to this. It's quite funny, actually. So I want to discuss the responses. You had some people in Lebanon, some politicians, who were saying, oh my God, look at what Hezbollah's doing, right? They're going to bring sanctions on us. Because what's the idea? Is that if Hezbollah starts bringing in oil from Iran, and the Lebanese government doesn't do anything, or the Lebanese authorities don't do anything, then the United States, right, will come with its big bad stick and will put sanctions on Lebanon, right? But the people who are saying this, they blame Hezbollah for everything. Okay? If tomorrow an asteroid hits the earth, they will say Hezbollah did it. Okay? So these are people, you have a lot of them who are also fighting the civil war, but we're not going to get into all of Lebanese politics now. We've done that before on the channel. But anyway, you have people inside Lebanon, other politicians saying this. You have other people who are happy because, they would take things into their own hands. They would take charge of things. But that's not the main thing that I want to highlight here. Okay? That's not the main thing that I want to highlight. The funny thing here, and this is perfectly encapsulated, okay, from someone on Twitter, Sarah Haj. Take a look. Just a couple hours after Sayyid Nasrallah's speech, in which he said Hezbollah will import Iranian oil through Beirut airport, and challenged Lebanese authorities to dare stop the ships, the American-backed Iraqi government decided to provide Lebanon with oil, increasing it by 1 million tons. Isn't that amazing, right? How quickly things happen. So this is from Middle East Monitor, right? Just a few hours ago. It says Lebanese President Michel Aoun thanked Iraq for doubling the amount of oil approved for Beirut from 500,000 tons to 1 million tons annually as the country suffers from a precarious economic. Okay, so it's quite funny, right? The Americans, and I can guarantee you the Israelis, must have been like, oh, Hezbollah's going to do what? No, quick, take the oil from Iraq. Just, don't make sure Hezbollah doesn't do that. That's funny. It's really funny, right? So all of a sudden now they've doubled, Iraq has doubled its supply of oil, 500,000 to 1 million tons a year annually to Lebanon. Now, of course, it doesn't fix the situation. I mean, neither of those things would. It's much bigger than that. There were promises that they were going to form a new government, right? But they're still busy. The last thing I read was that they're still having disagreements about choosing 2 Christian ministers because, the way the political system works in Lebanon, you have a quota, right? That was kind of... It was a result of the civil war. It was a compromise in a way that, you'd have a quota. You would have Shia, Sunni, Christian, etc., etc. You would have a quota of all the various, ethnic groups and religions in Lebanon in the government. So that was something, that's something that they're still working out. But I mean, it's not just that. It's not, you have to understand something. It's much bigger than just, what they're talking about now. I mean, Hariri, who's the prime minister, well, he I don't know if he's running again or not, but he's been in politics quite some time. He's not the president; he's the prime minister, former prime minister. The president, Michel Aoun. All of these people, they've been in politics a long time, and Lebanese people in general are just sick of their government, right? They're sick of everyone. So it's a much bigger problem than just Iraq giving them a bit more oil. That's not going to solve it. And you have to consider that, Lebanon defaulted on its international debt for the first time in history. I think last year in 2020. So they have the IMF breathing down their neck, saying, "Look, if you don't do what is laid out, we're not going to give you another loan." And then you have Macron, who's coming in also like some colonizer. You remember he was saying like, "If I'm back in 2 months and you haven't found a government yet, vous allez voir." Hein? So you got all these people, and of course the United States and Israel, right, who are not helping, shitting on Lebanon, and while they're shitting on Lebanon, they're crapping all over Syria as well, and it's synergy of crap. So it's a very unfortunate situation, and I just want to give you some more statistics about Lebanon's economy. over here. This is from AFP. So, I mean, you can just see, look at their GDP growth in percentage. It's plummeted. Look at that. 8% GDP growth in 2010. Now in 2020, the forecast is, well, this was the forecast for 2020. It was minus 12. It's horrible. Look at how the currency has become worthless, even though it's pegged to the dollar. Horrible, right? So people are suffering. You have to understand this. It's really bad. It's really bad. Now, at the same time, look what's happening here, right? So May 31st, the US sells off Iranian crude oil seized off the coast of UAE. Okay, so you guys may remember that Iran has been sending oil to people. Because here, Hezbollah, Nasrallah, he's talking about Hezbollah bringing in oil from Iran. Yeah, because that's the thing. Iran has been sending oil, fuel to Venezuela, right? Venezuela has the largest reserves of oil in the world, but they can't refine them because their infrastructure has been decimated by sanctions. Thanks to guess who? The United States. Every single administration, right? Now, Iran has sent them fuel. Iran has been sending Syria fuel as well. Take a look. This is just from a few hours ago, right? This is in the Jerusalem Post. Iranian oil tankers set to arrive in Syria on Friday. About another 300,000 barrels of oil are on a third tanker waiting in the Suez Canal. So Iran, even though Iran is under sanctions, crippling sanctions, even though Iran is not in a good spot, Iran has still been helping Syria, has still been helping Venezuela, and they would surely help Lebanon as well, if asked. Now, the problem is that, as you can see, the United States is a pirate. Literally. They've been seizing oil, Iranian oil, and selling it off, right? That's what pirates do. They board a ship, they steal the cargo, and then they sell it off for profit because they're pirates. And this is not the first time. Right? And they've even done it when it's done privately. For example, you've had people who bought oil from the Iranian government and then as private persons and sailed it to Venezuela, right? So they're private persons. And the US has stolen their oil and sold it off. It's astonishing, right? And right now, by the way, you have Iran sending, I'll pull up the article for you. They're sending another ship to Venezuela with an armed escort. And the Biden administration has been warning them about this, right? So take a look at this. This is from The Guardian. Iran sends warship on rare Atlantic mission amid Venezuela speculation. Okay? So I'm trying to look for the Biden comments. Basically, they've been trying to warn people like, oh, you should not accept these ships. There are weapons on board. Again, the United States, my point here about the United States, that they think that they run the world, right? Here it is from Politico. U.S. warns Venezuela, Cuba to turn away Iranian ships believed to be carrying arms. Hold on a second. First of all, fuck you. Second of all, Cuba and Venezuela are not U.S. territories as much as you'd like them to be. Cuba and Venezuela are sovereign countries. So you can take your warning and stick it up your ass. Okay? Iran is also a sovereign country. Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, Syria, Lebanon do not need your fucking permission to trade with each other, you imperialist swine. Do you understand this? We do not need your permission. Eat shit. So this is the problem with the Westerners. They have some fucking superiority complex where they think that, no one is allowed to engage in trade. No one is allowed to partake in economic affairs, in finances, nothing without the permission of Britain and the United States. You can't do that. No, it's not allowed. Why? Because they have this colonial mindset. They still think that the Middle East, that West Asia, that all of these countries in the global South, North Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, all of these regions are still under their dominion. They're brought up to think like this, and the media continues to teach them this mentality, right? Who the fuck is the United States to tell Cuba and Venezuela what to do, or tell Iran what to do? Who are you? You are no one. The same thing for Britain. The same thing for France. You do not run these countries. They do not belong to you. So there is a real problem among the West, in the governments, in the media, even among the masses. They do not understand this concept of sovereignty, right? They still have this mentality that they run the world, that people in the global South belong to them, that they have to give them permission to do basic shit with each other. I reject this, okay? I do not tolerate this imperialist shit. Cubans, Venezuelans, Iranians, Syrians, Lebanese, Everyone, they are all sovereign countries and sovereign peoples. Okay? I will not tolerate this nonsense. This is garbage. This is ridiculous. So anyway, my point, just going back to what's happening, is that Israel has been blowing up Iranian ships headed to Syria with oil. The United States has been pirating Iranian ships with oil headed to Venezuela. So, these people, they're criminals. And of course, Britain has been stealing over $1 billion worth of gold, Venezuelan gold, in the Bank of England, in the city of London, that belong to the Venezuelan people, right? So these people are pirates, they're criminal, it's organized crime on a state level. You must really understand this. It's so apparent. Once you think of it that way, it's dead, it's dead simple. That's the truth. It's organized crime on a state level, on an international level. That's what the United States, France, Britain are. They are criminals. They're imperialists. That's what they are. So, I really, my heart goes out to the Lebanese. My point here is that, unfortunately, Lebanon, there are a lot of actors in the West who are trying to meddle in whatever future government may be built in Lebanon. Right? And they've made that clear. I mean, you had Macron landing there, the French president landing there, like some colonial bastard, like as if it's one of his territories, like a colony that he's come to visit and make sure everything's okay. Like, is everything all right in here? Good, I'll pop off for a bit. C'est pas possible, hein? So it's very unfortunate that they're still playing with the global south like this, and that this economic hardships, they're not just natural. It's not because Lebanon has a problem with, a fundamental problem with itself. No, these are factors from the West. The sanctions on Syria, they influence Lebanon. They affect Lebanon, right? The blockade on Syria, it influences Lebanon. There's so many factors here at play. So it's very horrible. It's very heartbreaking that people cannot even afford basic necessities. There's no fuel. And by the way, same thing in Syria. I mean, you guys know this. We've covered it a million times. Just look at the Syrian pound's depreciation over the years. Look at that, going from 2012 to 2020. Look at that. This is astonishing, right? I remember when I would go to Syria, 65 lira, 65 Syrian pounds for €1. And now it's in the thousands. My cousins have to wait 2 days maybe to get fuel for their car, up to 2 days. You want to get rghif khibz, like a bag of bread, flat bread, you got to wait 2-3 hours in line. That's democracy, right? They're bringing democracy to the Middle East. So you guys are very kind. I'm very grateful for all your comments. Thank you so much for your super chats. I'm going to read all of them now. So if you have any questions, please by all means shoot. You can donate on PayPal, CashApp, Venmo, GoFundMe. There's everything you want, man. You can send a carrier pigeon with some cash too, or a coffee, whatever's good. So thank you so much for supporting independent journalism, and I'm just grateful. That's all I want to say. And I'm going to read your comments now, so just give me a moment. Oh, we got a new paid subscription on Substack. Thank you so much. I want to say thank you to CT. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Thanks. I'm very grateful. Now over here, we have some super chats on YouTube. This is from Christian Gomez. Says, took me a while, but I finally... Oh, that's you. Okay, finally subscribed to Substack. Absolutely love your work. Thank you. Thank you, Christian. I really appreciate that. That is really nice of you, and I'm very grateful. You're a G. Y'all show some love to Christian. I really appreciate that. And just give me one moment over here to go into the YouTube settings because it's hidden your super chats. I can't see any others. So just one moment, please. They should be over here. All right, awesome. So we got one over here from Andre. Andre says, thanks, Richard, for your courageously uncompromised reporting on Western imperialism and criminal foreign policy. First of all, thank you. And that is exactly what I would call it. It is really criminal foreign policy. I wish people would see it. Again, it's not about seeing something in such a way. It's just the truth. It is really the truth. People need to understand that the relationship between the Middle East, between Latin America, Africa, Southeast Asia, it's not changed. They have taken away colonialism, and now it's neo-colonialism. They're doing the same crap. It's the same relationship, but maintained under a different name, but different banner, right? That's it. That's it. So instead of just straight up telling you, oh yeah, we're here to colonize you, no, they still come and plant their flags in their military and steal the resources. But they just say, oh, we're here to give you democracy. It's just a rebranding, and people really need to understand this. And it goes so much deeper than just invasions, right? You have to look at how it's done institutionally as well with the IMF, right? Because we're talking about Lebanon. When we're talking about the World Bank, when we're talking about how they put these countries into debt, they handcuff them in order to implement and enforce their foreign policy objectives, and just tamper absolutely in their social affairs, economic affairs, political affairs. The relationship is the same, right? They say that decolonization began in 1945. It didn't begin in 1945 because it never happened, right? A lot of countries, unfortunately, we only have sovereignty in name. And the few countries who actually are trying to protect their sovereignty, they are the ones who get called the axis of evil, right? They're the ones who get targeted for regime change because they're not behaving, right? They're misbehaving according to the West. What are these countries? North Korea, Syria, Iran, right? Venezuela, Cuba, Yemen. These countries won't conform. They say, screw you, we're not going to do things your way. And the West can't have that. So they go and they put economic pressure, they put economic sanctions, they inflict suffering, unbelievable suffering with this siege warfare. That's what it is. It's siege warfare. They come and they invade directly, right? You have US troops in Syria stealing the oil, right? Or as Trump says, protecting the oil. And Blinken says, and Biden says. And then they also fund jihadist groups, right? Then they go and they fund opposition figures like Guaido in Venezuela. And then they'll get the British. The British will go and steal the gold of the Venezuelan people, right? So it's a team effort. It's a team criminal effort. And so people really need to understand that it's a criminal enterprise. These countries in the West, France, Britain, the Americans, Israel, they are imperialists through and through. They're colonizers, and they still behave in the same way that they used to. It's just they've rebranded it. They do it under a different banner, a different name. But the relationship is fundamentally the same, right? And it's really, really important that people wake up to this. I feel like a lot of people don't understand the concept of sovereignty. Like, again, they read headlines like this in Politico or whatever about the U.S. sending a warning to Venezuela about accepting Iranian ships. Venezuela and Iran are not U.S. territories. They don't need your fucking permission to do anything with each other. They can send themselves shipments of cuddly toys and shipments of weapons and shipments of oil. It's none of your fucking business, right? These are independent sovereign countries. But no, the media repeats this thinking, this phrasing, and so they plant these seeds in people's minds and teach them to think like imperialists, like colonizers. It's disgusting. So it's really criminal, absolutely criminal. We got a super chat over here from Sean, says, the EC admin actions on Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Yemen, JCPOA. Oh, so it's a question. I understand. Yes. So Raisi is I don't know if I should say incoming just yet, but he's one of the candidates for Iran's presidential elections, which are on June 18th, I believe, right? So very soon, in a week. Rouhani cannot run anymore. I think he's exhausted the term limit. So, Raisi, from what Press TV has reported, from what people are saying, he's the front runner at the moment. He's the highest chance of winning. And, well, I mean, this is, I would like to just answer your question. I would like to reference an answer that Scott Ritter gave to me on my program when we were talking about Iran. And he said something that what the West does not understand, what Westerners do not comprehend, is that when we're talking about Iran, and I would add also about other countries who are in the axis of resistance, is that, just because the president is replaced, there's a new administration or government that comes in, this doesn't fundamentally alter the principles, because this idea of having principles as a nation does not compute in the West. But in Syria, in Iran, in Russia, these countries have principles. Do you understand? So, it's the same thing the Russian ambassador told me. They know how to separate things. So just because, for example, a new president comes in, that doesn't mean we'll go and throw all the treaties away. But with Americans, it does. Obama leaves, Trump comes in, he throws away, I don't know how many things he left already, the UN Human Rights Council, the Paris Accords, the JCPOA, etc., etc. This is not the same thing in Iran, in Syria. There are principles as a nation. There's a question of keeping your word. So now the JCPOA, this is a very important issue. But just to answer your question about Syria, Iraq, Lebanon, and Yemen, I mean, as I just mentioned, there are principles, and so the support will be unwavering. I have no doubt. When it comes to the JCPOA, this is a very big question, right? Because a lot of people are sick of the sanctions that the U.S. reimposed on Iran as a result of leaving the JCPOA. And, Iran's supreme leader, Ayatollah Khamenei, he told the Rouhani government that, you can go and do the JCPOA, but I'm warning you, the Americans will lie. They will renege on their end of the deal. Lo and behold, that's exactly what happened, right? He was, Ayatollah Khamenei was completely right. Look at what the Americans have done. They ripped up the deal. You can't trust them. And so, the Iranians, I think they've fought tooth and nail to try and get the U.S. back in and to pursue a diplomatic route, to pursue diplomatic endeavors, to remain committed to the agreement, to the treaty. But it's the United States who's acted like a brat, who's ripped up everything. And it's no accident. You need to understand something. If it wasn't Trump, someone else would have done it. You know why? Because they fundamentally want to cripple Iran as a country. It's not about nuclear weapons. Iran has no nuclear weapons or nuclear weapons program, right? It has a civilian nuclear program, which it's entitled to, just like every other country that has signed the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty under the IAEA. Every country has the right to a nuclear civilian program, and Iran has that. But, they want to cripple Iran's defenses. They want to get rid of its ballistic missiles. They want to make sure that Iran does not support resistance in Syria, resistance in Lebanon, Hezbollah, or in Iraq, the Hashd al-Shabi, or in Yemen, right? So that's what they're really after. And you have even Europeans like Germany saying that they want that now in a new JCPOA. You heard Lindsey Graham just earlier. We were talking about how he wants a new JCPOA. There's not going to be any new JCPOA, right? They're so arrogant. The Americans didn't even follow the first deal, and now you want a second deal? that is worse for Iran? No, that's not happening. Get out of here. So I don't know. I frankly don't know. I mean, what will happen? Because the negotiations are taking place right now in Vienna, and the election is in a week. So it's when the Iranians were planning around the American election, they were actually very diplomatic. As I mentioned, they said that in 3 months, if there's no sanctions relief, we're going to leave the additional protocol, right? Why did they say 3 months? Because that was in December, and they knew that by 3 months' time, they will have a new U.S. president. They'll have maybe Biden, and then they're giving the new incoming U.S. president a chance to enter the JCPOA. So that is, a country that is pursuing diplomacy, that it has goodwill, good intentions. The U.S. is not so much like that. They know full well that the elections are coming, and what do? They're trying to waste time, right? You don't need months and months and months to do this. I mean, yes, of course, let's make no mistakes. Diplomacy is a difficult undertaking. It takes time and effort, of course, naturally. No one expected it to happen in a day. But man, these people, they were there when a lot of them were architects of the deal. Biden, Blinken, they were part of Obama's administration when that deal happened. They know it backwards. So, I think that they know full well elections are coming up in Iran. I think they've been wasting time, and I don't know. I really don't know. I don't want to say anything about the JCPOA just yet. I'd rather see how it plays out. But you have to pay attention to how the media report it, because they like to call anyone that is conscious of the treachery of the West a hardliner, right? So you see this phrase a lot in the media: hardliner. They try to insult people who call out the imperialism correctly as hardliners, and so. Who correctly point out that Iran has been stabbed in the back, and not just Iran, but, other countries as well. And so, they automatically try to put them in a box and label them in the Western media, because again, it's just like when you look at the Syrian elections, they do the most disgusting, like basic, lazy propaganda imaginable. So you can't really take anything they say seriously. It's just garbage. It's gutter journalism. So I personally, I'm not going to make any predictions. I'm just going to wait and see, because this is a very hot issue. It's a lot to do with sanctions, and on the other issues, it's unwavering. I'm pretty sure. Again, this is what people don't understand and need to understand. In countries like Iran, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen, Venezuela, Cuba, these countries have principles. Okay, and especially in the case of Iran, as you ask. If they would continue supporting Lebanon and Iraq and Syria and Yemen, yes, absolutely, yes. I've no doubts about that, right? They will continue supporting the resistance. So we have a comment over here from Edward. Edward says, how ironic that the U.S. gives $1 billion to Israel on the 55th anniversary of the Israeli attack on the USS Liberty. killing 34 and injuring 171 U.S. servicemen who have never been properly compensated. Yeah, and I would also mention the fact that the Israelis, they blew up the King David Hotel, killing dozens of British officers, and now you have the British participating, the Royal Air Force participating with the Israelis on exercises. Those people they've never apologized for that either, right? That's just straight up terrorism. And they just let them get away with it. And here as well, as you can see, the US, same thing. Because we know who's in control here, right? You have pussy whipped countries like Britain and the US. They're just pussy whipped. They're bitches. So, Israel calls the shots. They don't say anything. And it's kind of funny, honestly. It is funny to see them neutered like that. But yeah, it's I mean, to your point, what you're mentioning, yes, it's insanity that you have these people who were just randomly blown up by a so-called ally, whether we're talking about the King David Hotel, the British troops, or the USS Liberty, the American sailors. Yeah, and it's just like their governments act like nothing happened. It's astonishing. It's incredible. So, it's just another testament to what Israel can get away with. The West, gives it blessing for everything. They can bomb the presses of the press. They bomb the buildings, the offices of the press, and nothing happens. So there you go. We got some donations over here. This is from loading. Second, it's loading. Okay, for some reason it won't log me in, man. Here we go. Wonderful. This is from Kat. Kat Terrell says, well, nothing. It's just a donation. Thank you. I appreciate it very much nonetheless. Hey, we got one from Colin. Habibi, Kifak, it's great to see you. Says, hope is all well. Habibi, you are missed on YouTube. So DJ Joe Nice, not sure if you know him, follows your channel, and he has some merch that he would love to send you. How can we make this happen? That is really nice. And I have a P.O. box. I don't know it by heart, but I think I sent it to you on YouTube, on Twitter. I can't remember, but we have one. So it's the P.O. box. And that is really nice. Also, I'm not sure if you know this, but I'm starting my own channel in part due to your inspiration. Oh, shit. I'm honored, man. But my channel will focus on issues pertaining to Africans and Africans in the diaspora. I say this a lot, but I appreciate you as always. Thanks for your hard work. Habibi, first of all, that's very honoring to hear that. And I think that's actually an amazing, amazing focus. And, I mean, I'm 100% behind you, right? The same you've been to me, and I'm really grateful. And I think that will be excellent. I think that will be really good. So, you got to invite me on sometime and vice versa, right? We have to make it official. So there you go. Cut the ribbon and everything, the whole ceremony. But that's really good. Do you have a name for it? Did you name the channel? Do you give it like your own name, or does it have a special name? I want to know more. And thank you so much for the suggestion for the merch. I'll send you the P.O. box. I've given out, I think I gave it to you a few months ago, but yeah, it's still the same one. So I'll get it for you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. And we have another donation over here, I think, from Corey. So thank you very much, Corey. I appreciate that. And yeah, if you guys have any more questions, just let me know. I'm reading also the one on Rockfin over here. We got some tips on Rockfin. This is Emblemed Fate. Emblemed Fate says, I feel you, Richie, after Nigeria banned Twitter, a bunch of shit-libs called Nigeria authoritarian and called out the president. Buhari is authoritarian and awful, but shit-libs know nothing about Nigeria or Syria. Shut the fuck up. It's none of their business. Yeah, they know nothing about this, so-called authoritarianism that they speak of. They should really deal with their own problems before trying to call out others. It's astonishing. They talk about Syria and like you said, Nigeria and, all these countries in the global south to insult them. They don't even know that in the Arab Spring, you had YouTube, Facebook, all these websites that were being used for the Arab Spring to carry the protests. They were unbanned in Syria during the Arab Spring, right? I saw that myself. So they don't tell you that part, right? They only want to tell you the negative stuff, and then they lie about it too. They just make up crap, as we saw with TYT. They just make up shit that's not even real. It's astonishing. So it's absolutely the case. We got a tip over here from Sharon. Sharon, thank you so much. Really appreciate your kindness. And I'm just scrolling up. I'm seeing if I didn't miss anybody else. I think I got everyone. So you guys are very generous. Thank you so much. And once again, if I may plug the show, you can donate over on PayPal, CashApp, or Venmo. You can just scan the QR code. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate it if you could please sign up on Patreon to support the show monthly. You can do that for as little as $2 a month. $5 a month, whatever. It lets you put in your own thing. So, you know, you can pick whatever you want to do. So I'm very grateful for that. Thank you so much. And here it is. The URLs are all in the chat, right? So patreon.com/RichardMedhurst. I changed the URL, huh? It's patreon.com/RichardMedhurst. And like I said, we did a huge audio upgrade and computer upgrade and everything. So that cost a lot of money. And, you know, we can only run the channel thanks to your support. So, you know, thank you to everyone who contributed to the GoFundMe and just in general to the channel. I'm really grateful. I couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm dropping all the links below. So there you go. And you should also make an account on Rockfin. It's free. ROKFIN.com. We're streaming there right now. Show it to you. So you it's not just me. You have all these other channels that are doing independent media, right? So Jimmy Dore, Unauthorized Disclosure, Whitney Webb, you name it. Graham Elwood, everyone is on there. So it's really a good idea to join. Okay, so it's rockfin.com/RichardMedhurst, ROKFIN.com. Like I said, all the videos are uploaded there as well. It's free, and I'm streaming there as well at the same time. It's really good. We got 5,800 followers. Let's see if we can get to 6,000, all right? Let's see if we can get to 6,000. So you just need to make an account and an email account, free account with your email, and that's it. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate that. And I'll leave all the links below. If I think that was all. I hope I read all your questions. Excuse me if I missed anything. I'll get to them next time, or hopefully I'll try to. Colin says, can you add Macron slap to the next crab dance? Oh my God, of course I will. Of course I will. You know I will, Habibi. How? That's a fucking brilliant suggestion. You know, someone tweeted and said, Habibi, no, it said, this is for you, Algeria, Habibti. I was like, yes, Algeria felt that shit. So that was good, man. Because Macron is a pig. You know, he said basically that, yeah, you know, France recognizes the crimes in Algeria, but we're not apologizing for them. What the fuck? Ouais, hein, c'est un connard. So I'll definitely put that in. Emblem Fate says, don't forget your rock fin. Keep up the good work. I did not, Habibi, and I'm very grateful for your tips. I'm very grateful. Emblem Fate says, who was that guy who said he wanted to do African diaspora news? I am a Pan-Africanist. I too want to do Pan-Afro news. I'd love to link up. You know, good on both of you. That's excellent. And I encourage that. And I think that's amazing. And I want to see you guys do this. Emblem Fate, we're talking about Colin, right? So I'm going to send you his Twitter. Hold on. I just want to make sure, Habibi, I just want to make sure I get your Twitter right. Okay, so it's at OGBONA _ Colin, COLLIN, okay? So Colin Ogbonna Radix Carter. There you go. So I'm just going to paste that also in the chat. And I don't know what the YouTube URL is. That's why I'm sending you his Twitter, right? So I'm very excited to see more. And I really encourage both of you. I think this is dope. So thank you guys very much. There we go. All right. So I hope I got all your questions, and thank you so much for supporting the show. And you know, I'll see you guys very soon. The Euro Cup just started. I hope I didn't miss too much already. So we're going to watch some football, not American football, but you know. So yeah, I'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much for supporting the show. You guys are awesome, and the segments will all be up shortly. Please share them, like them, comment, and it helps with the algorithm. Thank you so much. Ma salame. Bye bye.